Good evening, everyone. Kathleen Holland, Director of Inland Wetlands and Watercourses. This is the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting for the town of New Canaan on January 24th, 2022. I would like to just start with an announcement that our chairman is unable to join us tonight. So I would ask if the commissioners could make a nomination for a chairman pro tem this evening.
I'm happy to nominate Angela Jamison to be our
I'm
chairman.
happy to second.
Okay, thank you. Angela, you are
I'm
on.
the chair for this evening. Well, thank you very much, everyone. And so now we need to nominate a secretary pro tem, and I would like to nominate Peggy Kirby. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. All those in favor? Aye, good, thank you. That is great. So let's begin with asking the secretary to call the roll, please.
Okay. Daniel Stepanek, absent, obviously. Angela Jamison.
Present.
Beth Brunali.
Present.
Myself, Peggy Kirby, present. George Perkins.
Here.
Anthony Sillo. Absent. Priscilla Wokey. Priscilla? Is Priscilla there?
She raised her hand.
Oh,
She's present.
Sorry.
okay, sorry. Penny Ross.
Penny is present. Yep.
Here.
And Beth Sanford.
I'm here.
Very good. So just before we move to the seating of alternate members, I'd just like to welcome Beth Sanford, who has just joined the Inland Wetland Commission as an alternate. We're delighted to have you, Beth. Thank you for taking on this role. And maybe I could ask you just to say a couple of words about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'm really happy to join the commission. I have lived in New Canaan for almost 25 years, brought up 3 kids through the school system. They're all in their 20s now. And I, about 5 years ago, got involved with the New Canaan Land Trust and kind of took me into the arena of, how can we look at open space and protect the land and the habitat we live in. And so last year I was asked if I might want to put forward my name as a possibility for this commission, and I did happily, and took a little bit of time, but I'm here to make the contribution that I hope will help the cause of this commission, and get to know all of you as well. Maybe when we get off Zoom one of these days.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you so much for Beth and for that, Beth. And thank you again. It's wonderful to have you with us. So, Kathleen, if you can just confirm, I think we're able to seat 3 alternate members because Dan Stepanek isn't present, Anthony Sillo isn't present, and we have an open position currently. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'd like to ask Priscilla Wokey, Penny Ross and Beth Sanford to be regular members today. So that means that you can all vote on the application that we have in front of us. Thank you. So to begin with, we need to think about the minutes from our regular meeting on December the 20th, 2021. You all should have received a copy of those minutes. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes themselves? And if not, could I have a motion to approve, please?
I'll approve.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. So Priscilla moved to approve the minutes and George Perkins seconded. That's terrific. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda, applications to be received and scheduled for the next regular meeting, which is February the 28th. But we haven't actually received any applications, so that's moot. as is the next item, which is scheduling a site visit. So now I'd like to open the regular meeting, and we'll turn to application 21-22-20, 340 Country Club Road, Deborah Shaw trustee and Stephen Zatz trustee. And their application is to convert an area of turf grassed wetlands to meadow to enhance wetland functions, including stormwater filtering and retention, recharge groundwater, and provide an increased area of diverse habitat for wildlife. So I understand that Steve Zatz, who is one of the homeowners, is going to present the application to us. So thank you so much for joining us this evening, Steve. And maybe could ask you just to introduce yourself for the record, your name, and then maybe Kathleen can pass you the host ring so that you can share your presentation with us.
Yes, and I think she's actually done that.
Oh, good.
Yes, you are the host, and I would just ask before you, at the conclusion, I know you'll be anxious to wrap up for the night, but pass it back to me so we can finish. We can finish the meeting.
I
Because otherwise
absolutely.
you turn us off. Angela, I just want to know, I do see there's one a person calling in. If that person can identify themselves, they're muted. I believe it could be Dan. Dan, is that you on the call?
Kathleen, this is Beth Bernelli. I dropped my call and I just called back in.
Okay, so that's Beth. Okay, terrific. Thank you, Beth. It doesn't come up as a name, so I just like to know who it is. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Zatz, you're ready to go.
No, happy to start. And just 2 seconds of background. I've lived in my current home in New Canaan with my wife for about 3 years, but had previously lived in New Canaan for about 10 years. So, and I've lived in Fairfield County probably for about 30 years now. And again, appreciate everyone taking the time tonight. And I'll walk you through, can everyone see the screen, by the way?
Yes.
Good. We'll walk you through what we're planning, and obviously happy to answer any questions and go into as much detail as you would like, but I'll get started. This is the aerial photograph of our home and the areas we're going to be talking about. There are probably some people on the committee who remember that the bottom half of the property, and just to orient you, you have Country Club Road at the top, and as you go towards the top, you're heading north. And in the bottom of our property, behind, south of what is the pool there, we had a previous project that was completed this fall that we had brought before the committee. And so I'll show you some pictures in a second, but part of that project was to create a meadow, both in the area of marked wetlands that you can see there, as well as some of the surrounding area as well that technically wasn't in the wetlands. That project has concluded, and what we're talking about tonight is that second area of wetlands that you can see that's on the left of the screen that runs along the side of our property. We would like to convert that to a wet meadow as well, similar to what we had done with the wetlands in the lower part of the property. So I'll stop there for a second before going on. So this is the map that shows you that somewhat diamond-shaped area to the left that has these green areas drawn around it is the same wetlands we had seen at the left-hand side on the previous screen. And what we've divided this up into 2 areas. We would like to convert all the area you see surrounding it green into a meadow, a wetland meadow. But we'd like to do it in 2 phases. So the first phase of this is at the bottom of the screen. It's towards the south of the property. And again, I'll show you some photographs that hopefully will better orient you. And as you go towards the top of the screen, again, you're going towards Country Club Road. So the idea would be to do phase 1 if we get approval this spring, and probably next spring to do phase 2, which would be the top half of the property. All this area is currently, as you'll see, turf grass at the moment. And when we purchased the home about 3 years ago, that's the state it was in. I'm not sure for how long that has been lawn versus is anything else. And these are photographs of the meadow, the wet meadow that we put in as part of that first project that I mentioned, that's in the southern portion of our property. And I just took a couple photographs just so you had some sense. This is the second year, was early in the spring. But that meadow has taken very well. It's quite beautiful. Certainly the drainage and other areas around the handling of stormwater have been much improved. And we've certainly seen a lot of wildlife. We had 20 goldfinches hanging out in that meadow during the summer. So that project seems to have gone well. And some of the motivation now is to extend the meadow further than that first project did. And so this is the area that we're talking about. And to orient you in phase one, on the left-hand photograph, I'm standing at the split rail fence that kind of bisects our property on the side, and I'm looking south. And if I went far enough, it's probably the resolution isn't great, I would run into the beginnings of the meadow that we created in that earlier project. But as you can see, it's just lawn at the moment. And then on the right side, this phase two, I've walked back to essentially to Country Club Road, and I'm still looking south. You're seeing the split rail fence that is that bisects the property and kind of bisects the two phases of this project, whereas behind that split rail fence would be phase one, and close to us again, closer to Country Club Road, would then be phase two of the project. And this really, it's a relatively straightforward, plan. I won't read you the text, but the main elements are to carefully remove the current turf grass that exists, and then to put a native seed mix down, and to do that in such a way to be sure that that seed mix takes, and that we can handle things like storms or wind as well. And so you'll see there's a plan that involves both some chopped straw and then some jute mat that will cover what we plant. And this is both a mixture of flowering plants and grasses that will make up this, what's mostly a wet meadow. But as you saw, the meadow we're planting goes beyond technically where the wetlands are. And we had a fair amount of success in the previous project in having a seed mix that was both good for a wet meadow, but also could handle some drier areas as well. And similarly, the side area of our property has both wetter areas and drier areas. And so we think we've picked a mix that will work for both of those. Other elements, there are some trees that we're looking at, although my latest inclination would, they're outside the wetlands, but they would be touched by this meadow, and at least we were looking for permission to remove them. They're not thriving, but on the other hand, at this point, my sense is that we may just leave them and keep our fingers crossed. And just to give you a sense, that this is the seed mix that we've selected, that we think will both native seed mix, this mix of flowers and flowering plants and grasses, and ones that we think will do well both in the wetter areas that are now lawn, as well as some of the drier areas as well. And then the last, I think, slide I have is we obviously need some expertise to do this. And although I'm trying to learn as much as I can, I had found a consultant that had a lot of experience in creating meadows, particularly in creating meadows where there had previously just been turf grass. Her name is Teresa Mucci. She's from Wilton. She's local, not from New Canaan, but close by. Has a lot of experience doing this, has created a number of meadows, had come to me, highly recommended. And I had met with her several times before selecting her to do the project. And I think we both have someone who's got a track record of being able to do this and very careful about her work. So while I'm presenting the plan, that seed mix and how we go about it, and how we're going to try to ensure that this is a successful project is really coming from her expertise and experience, and she'll be working on this project the whole way. So those were the slides I'd presented to give you an idea of what we're trying to do, but happy to answer any questions if there are other information that would be helpful to you.
Sure, I have a question.
Sure.
First of all, I'm very impressed with your presentation as a landowner, and also Teresa Mucci, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. I have walked around Shanks Island many times with my dogs when I had dogs. Unfortunately, they're both gone now, but that's a very impressive property.
Mhm.
Also, for years now, I've driven by the one on where is it right here? Keeler's Ridge Meadow, which is between here and Ridgefield. So I've observed that many times. But my question is, the area you're talking about is sort of centrally located in what was or is presently a lawn. So are you going to maintain the outsides of this, the outside of the perimeter as turf grass and continue to maintain it as a lawn?
Yes, if I go back to the diagram,
Yeah.
anything outside the green lines at the moment we would maintain as lawn. I'm pretty committed to taking as much of our property, some of which is not in wetlands, and converting that to meadow as well. But yes, as you look at this, for example, in the front of the house where there's a little bit of a circle you can go around that comes to the front of the house, there would still be turf grass, at least for the moment, in those areas outside of the wetlands. But so we will maintain hopefully a minimal amount of grass, but we still will likely maintain some.
Okay, and is the idea to mow it 1 or 2 times a year to maintain it that way?
Yeah, what we found with the previous meadow that we put in the backyard is really that the best thing was actually to go in there by hand and to thin it out at least probably twice in the first year. So we would continue to kind of treat the entire set of meadows we would have, if you will, both in the backyard from the previous project and now in the side yard. We would, although one's a little bit ahead in terms of the other in terms of when they were planted, we would treat them similarly, which is yes, to thin them, but not to mow them, and to try to maintain as much of, kind of a habitat for wildlife as possible.
Steve, I have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
First, I want to commend you for the job you did on that first project, that previous one. That looks beautiful. It came out lovely.
Thank you.
Secondly, I wanted to ask you, what was your time frame? You said you want to do this in 2 phases. What was your time frame for starting the first phase? Did you want to start that this spring?
Oh, definitely. If we could, if we get approval, we would like to start that. And we already have the seed mix to get started. So that plan is kind of well put together. Assuming that goes well, then next spring I would do the top half of the property.
Okay, over 2 years. And then my question would be, how you propose protecting, and maybe you can go around it to get to the part that you want to start first, the phase 1 area of the property. You have to go around that big area in phase 2.
Well, it's a good
material you're going to bring in to protect that, the top part, the upper part of it.
Well, the nice thing, Peggy, it turns out that from the first project we did, we had to bring in a huge amount of stone to be able to actually get into the backyard. And as part of kind of closing out that project, we have covered some of that, for example, with mulch and other things. But the very left-hand part of the property, as you're looking at this at the property line, enables you to access that phase 1 area, as well as to get further back into the backyard. So we don't really have to do anything to provide access. It happens from the first project that we have good access. That wasn't true until we started the first project. But that was a part of what we had proposed and what we were asked to do was to make sure we weren't damaging wetlands as we were getting to the backyard. And so right along the property line is now a way to get both to the phase 1 area as well as to the meadow we planted a couple years ago.
Super.
So what, if any, equipment will be coming onto the property for this project?
It's quite light. I mean, we're gonna take up the lawn. There's no heavy equipment planned at all. The only thing, if those trees were to come down, we would need enough to be able to get to those trees, which are very close to this property line, which we've built up. But there really isn't a plan for heavy equipment, whereas the first project we did had a lot of heavy equipment that needed to get into the backyard. But this phase is really just the removal of the turf grass, the planting of the seeds, the planting of some plugs probably as well, but nothing that should require heavy equipment.
So that's being done by hand, removing the turf?
It is.
Yes. And who's doing the work? Is it Teresa, or does she have a crew of people?
She has a crew that are not
Right.
employees of hers, but are a team that she always works with when she does that. They're actually the people who have started to help me maintain the meadow we planted a couple years ago. So it would be under Teresa's supervision, but it would be that crew.
Right. And are there any lessons you learned from the first project that you're applying to this second project, phase 1 and 2?
Well, I hate to remind anyone, but probably the first lesson is to come to you before you touch anything. So I'll take that as the kind of 0th base lesson. You know, we learned in the first project really did go well, and I think what we've learned is just how much better the land is after the project is done if there's, you know, I think a good plan in place. And we certainly like the plan, and it's simpler. Again, we had so much to deal with in that first project. But we also realize these meadows are a little bit iffy. You're never quite sure what's going to come up when. It takes several years for them to fully develop. So I think the other thing is, you know, not to have an expectation that if someone shows up in June, they're going to see a beautiful meadow that was, you know, planted in May. But that over a couple years, I'm quite optimistic that we will have taken, you know, a lot of property that was pretty unproductive and certainly not very friendly to, you know, groundwater and other things, and have improved it. But I think it's just some patience, because it just may not all happen instantly after we, you know, remove the turf grass plant, and we'll have to kind of see what takes and if there are any surprises. But I'm pretty confident after the first project that this will go, you know, reasonably smoothly.
Steve, this is George Perkins. Again, I would like to just reiterate. I would like to pass on my compliments to the way that this has been presented. You did mention the trees. Are what type of trees are they, and where are they located?
Sure. There's a pin oak and an evergreen that are to the left of in phase 1 and towards the lower part, if you will, in the area that's outside the technically the wetlands, but probably in the setback. And as I said, Teresa has been working on me to say that, you know, something that is quite natural and is in a meadow is that not all the trees are absolutely thriving, but one's a pin oak, one's an evergreen, and if they really seem to take a turn for the worse during this process, it just seemed to make sense while we were doing this work to take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Angela, I just want to remind everyone, like what George just did, please introduce yourself for the record and then go ahead with your question.
Absolutely. Well, this is Angela Jameson again. I have an additional question, and that is the split rail fence that you have currently. Is that going to stay, or will that be taken down?
No, it's going to stay. It was part of the plan in the first phase. Even though we didn't remove any of the lawn, we had to deal with some of the drainage in this area as well. And it just kind of happens to bisect what made sense in terms of these two phases of the project. And it still makes sense to have a fence there. We have a dog that we let in the backyard, for example, and with that fence that we don't have to worry about him bolting. So that we plan to keep that fence and just won't touch it as a part of the project. There will probably be, I probably should have said, maybe 3 feet of grass or something grass-like along each side of the fence, just so you can walk along the fence and won't have to walk through the meadow. Or it just may be that that part of the meadow we take down enough so that you can get, for example, to the far left of the property along that fence. Seems like a natural place to create a little bit of a break between the two meadows we're planning, the one in phase 1 and then the one in phase 2.
Good. So do we have any additional questions? I'm sorry, I can't see everybody's screen here at the moment.
At the moment, Angela, no one has raised their hand. They can unmute themselves and ask their question if they wanted to, or make a comment, whatever it might be.
So this is Angela Jameson again. Kathleen, are there any special conditions that you think we could consider attaching to the application?
Well, prior to the presentation by Mr. Zatz tonight, I had suggested that the technically qualified person, or a technically qualified person, Teresa in this case, actually oversee the project. He's already stated that that is absolutely going to happen from beginning to end. So I don't think it's necessary to add that in as a additional requirement. I honestly cannot think of anything. I think he's done, as you see, you've gotten a couple of nice compliments tonight from the commission members on your presentation. So I too think it's really a bonus to have somebody who actually wants to mitigate a wetlands, not being forced to do so, actually choosing to do so, and having the guidance of a qualified person and a well-developed plan to have the most success on a nice wetland restoration for habitat, water quality, and yeah, it's really, I cannot think of any special conditions unless a commission member has something that they're thinking of.
Oh, it doesn't seem as though anybody has any additional questions or any special conditions that they would like to suggest. So
I just, as the newest member of the commission, that's Sanford. I just wanted to make a comment, which I'm also very impressed with the presentation. And the list, your results that you have from your last restoration, I think is really impressive after a pretty short time, less than 2 years, as I understand it. And the list that you have of all the plants and shrubs and grasses that you're going to plant is, knowing a little bit about native plants is a really comprehensive list. And having seen the results of some of the native planting that the Land Trust has done, particularly at its Silvermine Fowler property, I think you're really onto something great. And I wish as many citizens in New Canaan would do what you're doing, because it's so good for, as we said, the wetland restoration as well as creating habitat. And so, you know, it's very good for the ecosystem. So I applaud what you're doing here, and it takes a lot of work, and you've put a lot into it.
Well, thank you.
So if we have no more questions, could I hear a motion?
I move that we accept the proposal as presented.
A second.
Yep, proposed by George Perkins and seconded by Peggy Kirby. All those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? No, so the application has been approved unanimously. So Mr. Zatz, thank you so much for taking the time and trouble to give us an excellent presentation, and we wish you well with phases 1 and 2. And before we say goodbye, oh good, you have already been Kathleen Holland hosting it.
I knew I would blow it if in that last moment I didn't pass it back.
That's
Well,
great.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much as well. Take care.
Good
Thank
luck,
you.
Steve.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye
Thank
now.
you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So
Okay.
now we should move to the agent's report. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 permits that Kathleen Holland provided over the last month. So maybe you'd like to say a few words about those, Kathleen.
Sure. It's been a busy December, January. There are many projects coming through. Some of these, as you read through the activities, are for construction activities. One was for a septic repair, which has actually already been completed. So that was a bit of a get it done and get it done quickly. No other options on where to put that septic. So we had to be closer to a wetlands than we would have liked to be. But all in all, health department wise, it's worked out very well for that location. Some of the other projects are people getting ready for the summer and putting in pool compounds and patios and additions and pool houses and whatnot. And the last one there on Poconock was a construction of some activities that were going outside the footprint of a property on Poconock Trail, requiring the administrative wetland permission to be granted because of the activities are close to the existing house already exists within the wetland setback. So they're doing a small deck, and actually it's only a deck and a small addition off the end of the house that are within the upland review area. Some of these have already been permitted on the building permit application side, and others have their wetland permit, and then eventually I will see again a building permit for the various activities. But all in all, looking have a lot more. I was surprised actually we did not get any applications in to be teed up for the next couple of months, but I know of 2 that will be coming your way. They are preparing, the landscape architects are preparing applications that will be coming to the commission for certain, probably February, March. I think you'll be pleased because a lot of meadow restoration. so it's very kind of exciting. I don't know, maybe Mr. Zatz has started something here. So that's about it.
Well, it would certainly be nice if it becomes a fashion here in New Canaan to plant meadows. I mean, good from so many perspectives, both for preserving the wetland function, providing a safe habitat for wildlife, but I think also in terms of just how it looks, and actually the maintenance, I would imagine, is a lot easier.
Oh, actually, I think I've mentioned this before at another application, but when I lived in Ridgefield, I attempted this myself by letting a mown lawn area just go that was in an orchard. Oh, my cat, I didn't realize she was part of this meeting. Oh, there she
She's
is.
beautiful.
Before.
She's been there the whole meeting,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
please
really?
don't disturb her now.
I didn't really realize that. So
I'm going to have to put her on the roster.
yeah, actually maintaining a meadow is a very difficult proposition. And you can see at Irwin Park where the New Canaan Garden Club, that meadow looked, because I walked there a lot, it looked really great the first couple of years, and then over the years, the cosmos still come up and stuff, but you've got to be on it at all times. It just doesn't, take care of itself for sure.
Yeah, that is very true. And there are people that are experts in this area, and it's a costly thing to undertake, but continuing and maintaining it, yeah, you have to be invested in it for sure. to be able to really get the rewards that he's actually experiencing at his property. It really looks fantastic. So.
So do we have any, does anybody have any questions on the administrative permits? No, do we have any other business?
No other business. I just had maybe said before we actually got online, I'm going to be sending out some information regarding the DEP has once again launched their online training course. It's now through Division of Yukon. So I will be sharing all that information with you, with the commission members to go ahead and log on and go through the training either as a refresher. I've already sent it to Beth, so she's probably going to be registering and getting herself up and running and knowledgeable. The course is actually very well done, I have to say. You can go at your own pace. There's quizzes at the end of each segment. It is really very well done, and I can maybe speak for the chairman and Angela, who encourage everyone to go ahead and do the training, either as a refresher or as for taking it for the first time.
Great. Well, we look forward to receiving that information. So thank you.
Okay.
So if there isn't anything else, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I will.
Well, we can carry on.
No, we want to keep this meeting going.
Okay. So I think George moved that we should adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Priscilla. So all those in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you so much, everyone.
Nice job.
And
Angela. Thank
we'll
you.
get together again on Monday, February the 28th.
Thank you all, and thank you, Angela and Peggy, for pitching in tonight. Appreciate it.
And welcome to Beth Sanford.
And welcome, Beth.
Yes.
Welcome, Beth.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good night.
Bye-bye.